Donald Trump is at war with J.D. Vance because of war. Let me explain. Right now, it seems like Donald Trump is dead set on fighting with every single Republican in his party. He's yelling at Congress. He's attacking his own cabinet. And now, it's time to battle with his vice president. And this time, it is over foreign policy. Because, as we know, J.D. Vance likes to make himself out as an unconventional Republican. The new era already trying to move on past Trump, President Trump seems to notice as he himself is going down the war path, and that has created some controversy in the White House that brings such a smile to my face. We're going to get into it all. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, there is a lot that has led Donald Trump and J.D. Vance to this fight, as Trump fights with everybody else in his administration. But it begins with a clip of Trump talking about Iran and what his plans are going forward, which it seems like even he doesn't understand. But take a look at what Trump had to say last night.
Will an expert of Iran to engage diplomatically with you, or perhaps negotiate on nuclear program?
With Iran?
Yeah, do you think they want to engage diplomatically with you?
They do. They called.
They called you? Is it still
yesterday.
an option? Is it still an option?
Iran called to negotiate.
Yesterday.
The leaders of Iran called. They want to negotiate. I think they're tired of being beat up by the United States.
Are you sure you on that call?
Iran wants to negotiate, yes.
Negotiate what?
We may meet with them. I mean, a meeting is being set up. But we may have to act because of what's happening before the meeting.
Right.
But a meeting is being set up. Iran called. They want.
So, that was Trump last night. And although I want to get into how this has caused a controversy within the White House and why this kind of colors what the rest of Donald Trump's term will look like and whether J.D. Vance is able to get out of all of this, unscathed, we have a lot to talk about. I just first want to point out the fact that Donald Trump has never talked this way about Putin. Never once has Donald Trump said, well, we're going to negotiate, but we're also going to get tough, and they should also be very worried, and they should be so scared. He does this when he's talking about tariffs, right? You hear Donald Trump a lot of the time say, well, you know, we've been ripped off for so long and we have all the leverage and they've treated us so poorly. But Trump doesn't really seem to do that when it comes to a brutal, murderous dictator. I'll also point out the fact I don't want to read the whole post. It was nonsensical that Trump is now saying anyone doing business with Iran, he's going to slap a massive tariff on. But that, of course, does not include any of the countries that Donald Trump is doing business with, exploiting the presidency. It's all bad. Right? But what is Karoline Leavitt doing to try to nullify some of the idiotic statements that Donald Trump made before we get into advance?
Because taking airstrikes off the table in Iran, and does he believe there's a potential path to end the protest there without military action?
Well, I think one thing President Trump is very good at is always keeping all of his options on the table, and airstrikes would be one of the many, many options that are on the table for the commander-in-chief. Diplomacy is always the first option for the president. He's told all of you last night that what you're hearing publicly from the Iranian regime is quite differently from the messages the administration is receiving privately. And I think the president has an interest in exploring those messages. However, with that said, the president has shown he's unafraid to use military options if and when he deems necessary, and nobody knows that better than Iran.
Is the objective in these discussions with Iran still complete denuclearization, or what else is the president looking for as he, engages in these discussions?
Well, he's made it quite clear he certainly doesn't want to see people being killed in the streets of Tehran, and unfortunately that's something we're seeing right now.
Has President Trump spoken with Elon Musk about the internet situation there as well?
I understand he has spoken to Elon about that, yes. He talked to all of you about that on the plane last night.
What did the president mean though last night when he said that Iran had called to negotiate and that there may be a meeting that is set up?
I mean, what else do you want me to explain by that?
Who called and who would be a part of that?
There was an official from the Iranian government, I believe it was reported earlier, that reached out to a member of the president's very close team, Special Envoy Witkoff, expressing a far different tone than what you're seeing.
Are we still no new wars? Are we still doing no new wars? Karoline Leavitt would have you believe that, well, it's on the table, but we don't know. Karoline Leavitt doesn't know what she's talking about. Let's be honest, she can't really propagandize when she doesn't know what she's supposed to be saying. But there's one person who's really pushing Donald Trump publicly on this issue. It's part of the reason the Vance fight is happening. Just listen to Lindsey Graham.
They've chosen not to live this way anymore. And unlike Obama, President Trump has not turned his back on the people of Iran. So I pray and hope that 2026 will be the year that we make Iran great again.
I know Lindsey Graham has no love in his life because obvious reasons of concealment, and we don't need to get into that. I kind of already did my thing on Lindsey. A couple of people said, Jack, I don't like your southern accent, and that's fine, but I don't like Lindsey. But what matters is that you have the loudest, craziest voices in the party right now that Donald Trump actually still listens to, saying, please go to war. We're desperate for war. But JD Vance is desperate to make it out of the 2028 primary, which is why he's battling with Donald Trump right now. And this does color how the rest of the term is going to look. Trump leaning towards striking Iran as Vance urges diplomatic talks. Wall Street Journal. Vice President JD Vance is leading the push among a group of senior administration officials for Donald Trump to give diplomatic talks with Iran a chance before taking military action in response to Tran's bloody crackdown anti-government demonstrations. The Wall Street Journal reports American officials quoted by the Wall Street Journal say that Trump hasn't made up his mind, but currently leads towards striking Iran, breaking with Vance, though he could shift course. Some of the officials say Trump may first attack and then look to hold talks with the Islamic Republic. So, Donald Trump and JD Vance are at odds. And normally that wouldn't be that big of a story because, of course, JD Vance would shut up and do whatever he's told, but it's coming out. Why? Again, this was the same question that I was asking earlier today with the reports that Scott Bessent called up Donald Trump just one-on-one private call yesterday night. He wasn't in the office, and he talked to Donald Trump and he said, you need to stop attacking Jerome Powell. This is a politically motivated probe which will cause panic in the markets and make an economy that you've tanked. Now, I'm not quoting him directly here, but even worse, that is certainly the sentiment being shared by Scott Bessent. Now, the same thing is happening right now with JD Vance. Now, it's not about the stock market, right? It's not about Wall Street. It's about Vance's own political ambition. JD Vance was really doing whatever he possibly could in 2024 to define himself on the ticket as this new kind of Republican. Not only because he's just a ladder climber and all he can ever think about is himself, but because it was a smart enough political calculation, right? What Donald Trump and JD Vance, but mostly what JD Vance attempted to do was to say Claire Harris is campaigning with all of these former Trump administration officials, Liz Cheney, Dick Cheney supporting her, all these, Trump won officials, not because they are leaving their party or at least breaking with their party to say that Trump is a threat, but because Claire Harris is a warmonger. She wants to give out, hundreds billions more to the military-industrial complex, which is, by the way, what Donald Trump wants to do. He wants a 50% increase in the Pentagon's budget. Vance was trying to make the case that Claire Harris, as we know from that Stephen Miller tweet, will send your sons to war, right? So he was both trying to create the contrast, saying that this is the reason that Liz Cheney is backing Claire Harris. It has nothing to do with Donald Trump being an authoritarian, and it has everything to do with them wanting more wars, right? It's that dumb New York Times op-ed, a Donald Dove, Hillary the Hawk. How did that play out? Okay, that's what JD Vance wanted to do in part, right? He wanted to create that dynamic. It was the no new wars ticket, right? And how did that work out? But Vance also wanted to present himself that way, not to draw the contrast between Claire Harris, but to kind of establish his ideological view within the Republican Party. America first, anti-intervention. We don't want to get caught up in foreign conflicts. We don't even care. Where is that now? Where is that now? As we talked first about Canada being the 51st state, we're taking the Panama Canal. We're invading Greenland. We're buying Greenland. We're owning Venezuela. Or interfering in Iran. Where is the anti-interventionism? Donald Trump has dropped more bombs on more countries than any president in their first year in American history. Is that no new wars? Is that no intervention? So why JD Vance, back to the article, is leaking this out? Because he's leaking this out is because he wants to keep his credibility as someone who was anti-war, who didn't want to go to war. Well, this wasn't my decision. It's what Mr. Trump wanted, but he can't say that. He has to subtly push it. He has to suggest it to the people who will suggest it to their people and push it in the base, right? He needs Erica to come out in her leather pants and her fake tears and say, well, JD never wanted war just like Charlie. Can I have $100 million in donations now? That is what the Erica Kirk fake cryfest is about. The grift, but that's a whole different subject. Vance is breaking with Trump. Vance is leaking this out because he is trying to maintain his ambition. He knows that where the base of the Republican Party is right now is pushing back against this consistent intervention by America. And so he wants to play both sides. He wants to say, well, I stand with Mr. Trump and we love Mr. Trump and President Trump, but he also wants to be able to say, well, I was pushing behind the scenes. Remember that group chat JD Vance is in where he said, these strikes on the Houthis, they were stupid. We don't need to be doing this. Why are we doing this? It all came out. Vance breaking with Trump. Well, now he's had a little bit more time at this. He knows how to get his message out subtly. He knows how to quietly push his agenda. The agenda that is JD still in the good books, right? You're an America First Republican. Whatever the H that means, it's not true they don't believe it. JD is all right with you. And he's doing that as he undermines Donald Trump. And to me, undermining Donald Trump to keep yourself safe is a lot of what we're going to see from Republicans at large ahead of these midterms. And as they realize after they get wiped out, because that's what the midterms are going to be, that they have to look past Trump, and there are going to be a lot of ideological questions that come with that. And I don't think they're going to be prepared to answer them. They will be prepared to go to war with themselves. Speaking of, and that'll be fun to watch, and as they do, we have to push back. Speaking of someone going to war, I guess I should say committing war crimes. Mark Kelly, on the topic of Donald Trump and his desire to strike everything, continued his call out of Pete Haggith today on the Senate floor. And I want to take a look.
50 years, we have been the greatest democracy the world has ever seen because patriotic Americans have been willing to stand up for not just their own rights, but for the rights of all of our fellow citizens. That continued resolve is what will decide if our democracy lasts another 250 years. That's why today I filed a lawsuit against the Secretary of Defense to protect my rights, the rights of retired veterans, and the rights of all Americans. I've never backed down from a fight for our country, and I'm not going to back down from this one.
Pete Eggs is a disgrace. He is incompetent, and that is all purposeful. That is purposeful, but it needs to be called out, and we're going to on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. Until next time, I'll see you